Hey everybody, this is E. Marcel Pertu. Welcome to another edition of Fighting Peaches as we preview tonight's contest between Georgia State and Charlotte in football action. As always, if you want to follow everything that we do, head to the mothership, the sportsinquirer.net, premier site for news and notes in the world of sports. You can go to our social media platforms such as Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Do a search under there for the Sports Inquirer, and you'll be able to find us. And finally, subscribe to our audio and video host, such as YouTube, SoundCloud, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and iTunes. Do a search for Sports Inquirer, similar deal. You follow us, and you will be able to keep track of all the things that we have going on. So Georgia State returns to action today on September 18th against Charlotte at home in non-conference action on the football field. The Panthers are coming off of a 59-17 loss at North Carolina September 11th. Here is Coach Elliott on the team rebounding from the loss and previewing a little bit of their contest against Charlotte.
The North Carolina team, and for 3.5 quarters, you fight and you claw and you scrap and you battle and you do everything possible to put us in the ball game and try to hang in the ball game with them. And I think I can't be exactly sure, the time, but I think it was about 6 or 7 minutes left in that third quarter, and it was still a 2-possession ball game. And we're still playing hard, we're still fighting, and after that it got away. It got away from us. Those are the hard things. You lose the last quarter and a half, and they explode for points, and what we were doing offensively, it just didn't turn out the way we wanted to. It wasn't for effort. I mean, they certainly went out there and played with great effort. I think at times there in the fourth quarter, there were some heads dragging and things of that nature were happening to us. But credit a good North Carolina team. We're certainly not feeling really good today. It's hard to do it after you play two really good opponents and get beat the way we did in both contests. It's hard to be happy about anything that's going on in your football program. But I do think we had some positives come out of this past weekend. I think our lines of scrimmage handled their lines of scrimmage pretty well. I thought our offensive line and protection and pushing the run game a little bit were effective. And I thought our defensive line did a really good job holding them in check. I think the quarterback did have, some big runs to tackle into their rushing, but all in all, in their run game, I think our defensive line kind of handled them. They really did, with quickness and some tackles for loss. So those are some positive things, and I think our special teams came out pretty clean. I think Michael Hayes did a nice job in punting, and I think that's something that's really, really critical. And I think he averaged about 45.5 yards per punt. That was a positive thing. Noel he continues to be consistent on his field goal and extra point. So there are some positive things, but I don't think anyone on our team feels really positive about anything at this point. We've got a good Charlotte team coming in here. They're 2-0 with a head coach that's really fired up. He's one of the hottest names in college football, Will Hilly. I hear talk about him all over. In the coach profession, the job comes open. Coach Healy's name, just because of the talent he's surrounded himself with at Charlotte, and of course winning has put him in position to be mentioned for all those jobs. Beating Duke and beating Gardner-Webb, sitting there at 2-0. That's we certainly would like to be sitting at 2-0 as well. But it's going to be a tough challenge for us. They've got confidence. I know Will, and he instills confidence in his group. They will play with a lot of energy and a lot of emotion, and they'll come down here inspired. And it'll be a tough task at 7:00 come Saturday night. But we're going to be a bunch of ill individuals at that time as well. So ill and mad, it brings out the best in us.
And Charlotte comes in as a very formidable opponent. They're 2-0 on the season. Head coach Will Healy has become one of the emerging stars in the coaching field. They have a win over ACC folk Duke in that victories so far this season. Here is Elliott on the team avoiding the Panthers, looking to avoid an 0-3 start to their campaign.
This is football. These guys are still young men. They still have probably a lot more issues than what I've had to face early on in my career. So, just because you bring back a lot of experience doesn't mean things are going to just go as smooth as possible. I mean, it really hadn't. We knew we were facing two really good football teams. I mean, there's no question about it. You look at North Carolina and you look at their quarterback, and he played like one of the top picks in the draft. He certainly did. And Army, they played very well too, like a team we saw on film. We just didn't match them, either one of them, for whatever reason. But I've been in a situation like this before. It's not unusual. You still play 12 games. They're not going to stop the season after 2 and call it quits, and we won't pack our bags up. So we're going to continue to push and fight and see if we can climb out of this doggone hole we dug ourselves into.
And a big part of their struggles so far this season has been slow starts on offense. Their first game against Army, they trailed 14 to nothing in the first quarter. They trailed North Carolina 14 to 3 in the first quarter in the aforementioned loss last week. Here is Elliott on the team's slow offensive starts and what they can do to improve on that.
Yeah, it's I think we got to give them a little bit more of a simplistic approach. I think if you look at us a year ago, we probably handed it off on the first possession. I don't know, 10 out of 12 game or whatever. When we played 10 games a year ago, 8 out of 10 games was probably a handoff and let us get, those guys up front pushing the envelope. Sometimes we try to out trick ourselves. On Saturday we got ourselves in a little bit of a bind where we'd rep the play, and we had to check our initial first play because the look that we were going to go with wasn't there, and we ended up with a 2-yard loss. Now we're playing behind the sticks, and the next 2 plays were actually well drawn up, well thought of, and we're right on point. We just missed high with throws and didn't get going and had to punt that thing. And that's not the way you want to do it. We want to be aggressive and push the envelope, but we've got to execute. We've got to execute like that first play. I'll tell you, I put that right on the coaching staff's back. It wasn't a great first play, and then the execution on the next 2 were on those players because those plays were there.
Now, Georgia State and Charlotte have met twice before, and the series is tied 1-1. Each team has won on the opponent's home field. Last year's game, scheduled to be at Charlotte, was canceled due to the pandemic, but they do plan to meet in 2022 and 2023, so they'll try to make those games up over the next 2 years. The first meeting took place in 2017 with Georgia State earning a 28-0 victory at Charlotte. It's the first and only shutout recorded by the Panthers in the program's history. And super seniors, left guard Shamarius Gilmore and nose guard Dante Wilson were on the team when those contests took place. Charlotte won that first contest between the two teams on the 2015 season opener at the Georgia Dome. We were there, and the Charlotte team emerged with a 23-20 victory. So it'll be a very interesting contest to see what happens there, and we'll have the post-game wrap-up probably on the 19th of September. So check our site, check our platforms. So be on the lookout for that. And that concludes this really quick and condensed version of Fighting Peaches, previewing this contest between Charlotte and Georgia State. As always, go to Twitter and Instagram under Sports Inquirer and our Facebook pages. You can also go to our audio and video host on YouTube, SoundCloud, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and iTunes under the Sports Inquirer. And just wrap it up, go to thesportsinquirer.net itself, and you'll be kept up to date on all the things we have going on. Until next time, good fight, good night, and be safe.